April is National Poetry Month, so every day, Concord University's Writing Center prompts faculty, staff, and students to write a haiku or response to a particular poem. NewsLodge reporter Jillian Risberg enjoys writing poetry and has the story.
National Poetry Month is a good way to encourage people who like to write poetry, but also to expose people to it and engage with it, even if they don't write.
And then I love teaching poetry, the emotional impact and seeing students connect with emotion in a poem that could be centuries old. And yet they can identify with it. So looking at Shakespeare's sonnets and being like, oh yeah, I recognize that feeling of being in love, or Sappho complaining about somebody not loving her back. They're like, I get that.
English professor Michelle Gumpf's degree was in creative writing, and she specialized in poetry. As far as writing, she says, poetry is a great outlet for emotions and connections that can sometimes be difficult to put into the clearest and most descriptive words.
Avoiding cliches and being as vivid as you possibly can, and then rewriting and rewriting and rewriting.
W.B. Yeats is the professor's favorite poet. She says because of his variety of poems, some very romantic like Lake Isle of Innisfree and The Second Coming, then things about the Irish Rebellion. But Gumpf says one thing to keep in mind about poetry, it doesn't all have to be so heavy.
There's something very lyrical and wonderful about his words.
If we have to define poetry versus fiction, Gumpf says poetry is compact, powerful imagery, focusing more on the showing than the telling.
Poems can be sarcastic, and they can be funny, and they can also be creepy and scary. They don't have to be these serious, deep philosophical things.
The professor says haikus are the perfect place to start. 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables about nature. She says it can be as simple as that and recommends writing every day.
Or have an old-fashioned notebook and just write stuff down that looks cool or interesting, and then go back to it later and polish it. But capture the ideas when you can.
At Concord University, Jillian Risberg reporting for Newswatch.